Hey guys, my name's Jono. In 2022, I quit my 9-to-5 corporate job as a lawyer to pursue my dream of building my own videography business with my best mate, Jason. At the time when we made the jump, we had no idea what we were doing. We had no prior business experience. We were kind of just winging it. But in 2023, in our first full year of business, our videography business did over $200,000 in revenue. And a big contributing factor behind us being able to reach that milestone was actually this book, Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. Before reading this book, honestly, I didn't know too much about business. I went to university and I studied law and business, but apart from learning how to answer a bunch of multiple choice questions, business school didn't really teach me much around how to actually start and grow a business. And when I read the back cover of this book, it really intrigued me. It says, "Is this blue book more valuable than a business degree? It's not fair to spend thousands of dollars on a business degree and still not know how to grow a business." And reading this really resonated with me because it basically summed up my situation in a nutshell. Growing up, I'd always wanted to start my own business, and I'd spent tens of thousands of dollars going to business school, yet I still had no idea how to actually start and grow a business. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my 5 biggest takeaways from this book that allowed us to grow our business past the $200,000 revenue milestone. If you've always wanted to start a business, but you have no idea where to start, then this video is for you. Takeaway number 1, good character beats talent every time. One of my favorite quotes from this book is, "If we don't have good character, we are going to fail in business and in life." Having been in business now for about 2 to 3 years, I've come to realize that people do business with people. And based on my experience, if you just focus on delivering as much value as you can, if you are genuinely kind to people, you work hard and you do good work, things naturally just fall into place. And in the book, Donald Miller talks about the 10 characteristics of what he calls a high value professional. And I just want to talk to you guys briefly about 2 of those characteristics that I think really resonated with myself and that really helped contribute getting our business off the ground. The first one is that successful people view themselves as an economic product on the open market. They are obsessed with getting people a strong return on the investment that's made in them. Because whether you are an employee working for someone else or you're running a business with customers, someone has invested time and resources into you. This might sound a little bit insensitive, but at the end of the day, if you want to be paid more, if you want to be given more responsibilities, or if you want more customers, you have to find ways of providing more value. So ever since reading this book, I've found myself getting into the habit of always asking myself this question: how can I add more value? How can I over deliver on what the client is expecting? Maybe for a video project, the client is only expecting 1 video deliverable, but I repurpose some of the video footage and produce 3 to 5 videos for them. These days when we run our videography business, we always try to get into the habit of under promising and over delivering, because that's what results in happy customers that want to keep working with you again and again. The second character trait that really resonated with me was having a strong bias towards action. In the book, Donald Miller says, "Daydreaming and talking about ideas do not put points on the scoreboard. It's only when we make a real thing happen in the real world that our world begins to change and get better." In uni, me and my mates used to always sit around the bar, we'd have a few beers and we'd talk about a bunch of different business ideas that we could start. But unfortunately, none of those great ideas ever eventuated into anything because we never took action towards it. Luckily, when we started our videography journey back in 2019, when we bought our first camera, Jason and I were talking for a while about putting ourselves out there, working with some real clients and getting our initial portfolio kick-started. But it wasn't until we took that first step and reached out to our first client, organized that first free portfolio shoot with that Japanese restaurant, when the results really started happening. Takeaway number 2, learn to increase your output. When I first made the jump from my 9-to-5 corporate job to full-time entrepreneurship, productivity was a massive problem. When you're working a 9-to-5, your boss assigns tasks that need to be done by a certain time. There's a level of accountability, and if you don't get it done, you basically get fired. But when you're running your own business, that level of accountability isn't there. If you don't do work or if you slack off, there's no one to really tell you off or hold you accountable. But reading this book really helped me organize my daily schedule when I made that transition into full-time entrepreneurship and really helped me maximize my daily output. One of the biggest takeaways I got from the book was learning to prioritize my primary tasks, or what Donald Miller calls your highest return opportunities. Nowadays, every morning before I start work, I always sit down and try to ask myself, what's the most important thing that I can do today? Because in the book, Donald Miller says, it's by taking small steps towards big goals that we accomplish our important objectives. So start with your objective and then just work backwards and say what are the small steps that you need to take each day to get closer to that objective. For example, when I first quit my 9 to 5 to go full-time into our videography business, our primary objective was to grow our business to 6 figures and beyond. And so for us, the highest return opportunities were things like crafting our packages, developing a marketing plan, and driving traffic to our services, whether that was by reaching out to new clients, attending networking events, or posting on social media. A key tip that the book gives is every day, make 2 task lists. List 3 items that are your highest return opportunities, and then create a separate list of tasks that are not as important as your 3 highest priorities. And what the book recommends, and it's what I now do on a daily basis, is try to prioritize on working on those highest return opportunities in the morning when your mind is most fresh. Takeaway number 3, a business is like an airplane. When Jason and I decided to take the leap of faith and go all in on our videography business, if I'm being honest with you, we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. At the time, we used to think, okay, we've got this thing that we're really passionate about, which is creating videos. Let's just try our best to make money out of this passion, and hopefully that will basically just turn into a business. But it wasn't until I read this book that I realized that all types of businesses actually share the same 5 components. And in the book, Donald Miller analogizes a business to the 5 parts of a plane. So the first part is the body, which is basically all the necessary expenses that go into providing the product or services for the end customer. So for example, in our videography business, this would include the overheads like paying the salaries for the 2 main employees in the business, which is just myself and Jason, all of our camera equipment, and also all the ongoing subscriptions that we pay, for example, to the music bed, Adobe, etc. The second part of a business is the wings, which is basically the products and services that the business sells. For example, in our videography business, these would be the video packages that we sell. So in the book, Donald Miller says, without profitable products and services to sell, no air can lift the plane off the ground. The third and fourth part are basically the 2 engines of the plane. The right engine is basically marketing, which is the process of telling other people about your products and services. And the left engine is just sales, which is the process of turning your interested prospects into paying customers. So after reading this book, we were able to implement a marketing plan into our business, a system to regularly tell people about our services, and we also implemented a sales process. When someone expresses an interest in working with us, whether that's through social media or meeting us in person, we will organize a discovery call to see whether we're a good fit to work together. And then finally, the 5th part of a business is the fuel, which Donald Miller says is the capital and cash flow. A business may glide a little when it runs out of cash, but eventually it will crash, and everybody on board the body of the business will lose their livelihoods. So when we first started our videography business, we injected our own money to buy our first camera and laptop. But once we started making money with our business, once we started producing cash flow, we were able to reinvest that cash flow into getting more equipment and to continue to build the business going forward. So learning about these 5 components completely changed the way that we thought and operated our business. When things weren't going well, when we were maybe having a slower period, instead of panicking and freaking out, we were able to break our business down into these 5 parts and analyze where the issue was coming from. Maybe we weren't putting enough effort into our marketing activity. Maybe our sales process needed to be improved. Or maybe the body of our plane was just too heavy. We were hiring too many people and our overheads were too high. So thinking about our business in terms of an airplane with these 5 components, the body, the wings, the 2 engines, and fuel, is what actually allows us to make more strategic decisions with our business. Takeaway number 4, a clear marketing message is what attracts customers. Any professional who knows how to clarify a marketing message is worth thousands more in the marketplace. Why? Because a clear message sells a product. And from my experience over the last few years of trying to sell video services through our videography business, what I've come to realize is that a clear marketing message always starts with your customer's problem. When I first started my business, I used to attend a lot of these networking events. And at these events, I used to always have to stand up for 30 seconds in front of a room of business owners and talk about my business. Being a noob when I first got started, I used to just stand up and stumble my way through it. I'd say something along the lines of, oh yes, we are a video production company. We produce a range of videos from brand story videos, testimonial videos, and social media content. And as I was doing my pitch, I could just see people falling asleep in their seats. Nobody actually cared. But then one day I decided to change up the pitch. I decided to focus the pitch on the customer's problem. And the problem that a lot of businesses had in the room was that they had a really poor online presence. When customers hopped onto their website and social media, there was no way for these businesses to stand out from their competition and connect with their customers. And that's where high quality video and photo content comes in. Video content allows you to tell your story, connect with your customers, build trust, and stand out from the competition. By focusing on the customer's problem rather than what we're trying to sell, I could see people in the room visibly perk up their ears. And after the meeting, I had several people coming up to me asking for a meeting to talk about doing videos for their own business. And that leads me to a quote from this book, which is, the very first thing that any professional should talk about is a problem they or their product can solve. Until they talk about the problem, people are wondering whether they should even listen. Takeaway number 5, build your own execution system. This goes back to one of the character traits of a high value professional, which is to have a strong bias towards action. That's why this book talks about the importance of building an execution system that allows you to take massive action towards your objectives. Because a vision is nothing without a plan to execute it. Personally, in our videography business, Jason and I have implemented several tips from this book in our daily operations. The first one is the whole, what Donald Miller calls weekly speed check-ins. We actually make it a daily thing rather than a weekly thing in our daily stand-up meetings that we have at 8:45 a.m. every morning before we start work. The book suggests asking these 3 questions in your weekly check-ins. Number 1, what has each team member gotten done? Number 2, what is each team member going to do next? And number 3, what's blocking any team members from making progress? If you are a solopreneur, if you're running a business by yourself, you could get into the habit of doing these weekly speed check-ins with yourself. Write down answers to these 3 questions and keep it as a journal. In our one-on-one coaching program to help our students take massive action towards their goals, at the start of each meeting, we go through these 3 questions. What did you get done the previous month? What are you going to do next month? And what were some of the things that was blocking your progress? We found that by taking the time to reflect on these 3 questions, our students were able to take massive action and make progress towards their goals. The second tip is to measure your success. I'm a firm believer in what gets tracked gets improved. And in the book, Donald Miller says, people need to measure their progress in order to be healthy and happy. From our experience, we found that that is 110% true because as a team, both Jason and myself, we have certain KPIs in our business in terms of our marketing activities and also the revenue milestones that we try to hit each month. And let me tell you, there's no better dopamine hit than getting to the end of the month, tracking your results and finding out that you've managed to smash all your goals. For those of you guys who are looking to build your own videography business, that's why I always say, start tracking all your results. Track the people that you reach out to, track the marketing activities that you do each week, and track all the client projects that you do each month. Because it's only by tracking your progress that you can actually improve. If you want access to some of the tracking templates that we personally use to run our multi-6-figure videography business, go check out the 6-figure filmmaker starter kit, which contains the roadmap, templates, and tools that we use to go from complete beginners back in 2019 to running a multi-6-figure videography business. The kit contains some of the templates that I mentioned, such as our client outreach template, our client project tracking template, and our marketing tracking template. So go check that out, link in the description box down below. And finally, the last execution tip that we've managed to take away from this book is celebrating our team victories. Creating a routine of celebrating wins is paramount to a team's success. Sadly, many competitive leaders don't notice wins because we're so hooked on winning. When we finally accomplish our goal, we waste no time celebrating and simply move on to the next challenge. I find myself falling victim to this. I am a very goal-oriented person, and I find myself sometimes I'm so fixated on trying to get to a goal for so long. And once I get to that goal, I basically just forget about it and move on to the next goal straight away. And working with Jason, he has really played a big part in helping me appreciate the little victories along the way. So these days, whenever we complete a big client project, or we launch a new product or service, or we reach a new milestone, we make sure to take the effort to celebrate that win. For example, recently when we hit our 10,000 subscriber milestone, we actually went for dinner and tried some Afghan food. So don't forget to also enjoy the journey along the way and celebrate those little small wins. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video of my 5 biggest takeaways from the book Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. Meeting a lot of you guys one-on-one through our coaching program, I've come to realize that a lot of you guys are also really interested in reading. Like if you have a look at our bookshelf, we've got a ton of books back there. And so going forward, this is a format that we want to introduce to the channel, which is basically a monthly book club where we basically just share some of the biggest takeaways from some of our favorite self-development and business books, and basically talk about some of the key takeaways from each book and how they've managed to contribute to our journey at this point in time. If you enjoy this new book club format, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and let us know in the comments down below what is a book that you would like us to talk about for next month. If you are a beginner videographer looking to take your videography journey to the next level, don't forget to also check out our free resources, link below, to our free 7-day videography email crash course, our creator kit, which contains all our pre-production templates, and also our free S-Log Lite. Anyways, guys, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next video. Stay focused.